Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week we have 4 films for you, and that includes the latest Jack Black film Kung Fu Panda 3, Chris Pine in The Finest Hours, Best Animated Feature nominee Anomalisa, and Spike Lee's Chi-raq, which just recently debuted on DVD. So first up is Kung Fu Panda 3, and Justin, let's hear about it.
Jack Black returns as the voice of Po, the chop-socky, roly-poly titular panda of the third and potentially final installment of the franchise, this time embracing a new role as a teacher for the Furious Five, once again consisting of Angelina Jolie, Jackie Chan, David Cross, Seth Rogen, and Lucy Liu. Amidst his struggles accepting this new role, Po finally meets his long-lost father, Li Shan, played by the great Bryan Cranston, and protecting his home from the supernatural villain Kai, played by J.K. Simmons, who feeds on Chi. Presentation-wise, I would say Kung Fu Panda 3 is quite possibly the best of the franchise. However, its story, it still has a few shortcomings. Now, in preparation for this show, I told my co-hosts that I hadn't seen part 2, so Dan was kind enough to lend it to me, and I think one of the major shortcomings is it kind of pulled a Matrix Reloaded. It overextended the mythology, and as a result, I feel like we got way too much too quickly.
Yeah, I was always real disappointed with 2.
And I think a lot of that is still very present with the third installment. Not quite as badly in this case, but it's still very apparent. They're throwing a lot at the screen, hoping it'll work out. It's a very beautiful film, and fortunately just about everybody's game for it, particularly with Bryan Cranston and James Hong playing Poe's adoptive father. The two of them actually get some great scenes together. And one of the best things I think it's very consistent about the franchise is, for some reason, they've never had a bad villain, and I think Simmons really makes it his own. My major criticisms, though, are, first of all, there's an incredibly tasteless running gag about disabilities that starts out in the second act and just keeps going, and it's just bad. Alongside that, one of the things I really liked about the first one that I was pleasantly surprised about was it didn't race immediately to the fat joke. This one, it's there, and it just keeps going and going and going, particularly when Po goes back to his homeland with Li Shan, and it becomes, oh, look, we can roll down with our fat, and fat man is fat. Fat panda is fat.
Justin, the tagline is literally "the wait," W-E-I-G-H-T, is over. I mean, which, it's not over.
Not quite.
I mean, that's sort of the campaign. He's fat.
I'm not denying that, but it's like, really, we did so well at avoiding this, and now it's there.
No, for one, I'm glad that the promotional materials, speaking of the tagline, were a bit misleading, because they had the 3 little panda tykes running around in the promos and stuff, and to me that just reeked of
Minions?
Not good. Well, I was thinking Shrek, the Shrek children in the third Shrek, which is awful. I just think it's a lazy way to continue an animated franchise. Oh, let's throw some cute kids in. I was glad to see that their appearances were minimal here, and they were with the rest of the whole Panda organization. It wasn't just the 3 kids. I thought from the posters and stuff that they were his 3 kids, and so it would be like that kind of a story. I'm really glad they veered away from that. I agree, though. I thought Simmons was great as the villain. Cranston, I couldn't place the voice. I was trying the whole time, and I was like, I'm just going to have to wait for the credits on this one, because somebody had told me J.K. Simmons. I'm not sure if I would have figured that one out right away, because he does a lot of interesting things with his voice in this. One thing you didn't mention, Justin, though, was I really like the messages put forth with this film. Really the whole franchise, I guess, but particularly in this film with finding yourself and playing to your strengths and believe in yourself and this, that, and the other thing. I think it's very positive, very uplifting. The whole 2 dads thing I really liked. I thought the shortcomings, though, were that, first of all, I was super confused about how it even resolved. I don't really understand how they ended up where they ended up beating him. I didn't really understand any of that.
That was kind of confusing.
It was real confusing, and in that respect, the presentation, Justin, did not work for me. I didn't think it was shot particularly well towards the end or explained very well. And I just didn't think it was all that funny. Aside from the two gags, or the two father gags, it really was a lot of fat man is fat jokes. So
it gets old real fast.
It really gets old. But the one thing I do always admire about this franchise is it really gets super A-list people to reprise their roles. I was surprised in the second one when I found out that Dustin Hoffman would be back, Joe Lee would be back. Now this time, obviously, if you check the credits, a few of her kids played, I guess, the baby pandas. So I'm sure that's how she signed on again. But, Hoffman's back, and obviously, Jack Black's fine. He's the head of the franchise. But it's sort of, Shrek-ish in that regard. Like, Cameron Diaz and Eddie Murphy maybe aren't as selective as a Dustin Hoffman.
No, but
it was impressive they got all of them back together for 4 movies. So I sort of feel the same about this one. Now, Joe, did you see the second one?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Did you see the first one, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I really liked the first one a lot.
Me as well.
And it's funny
Likewise.
because I actually saw it not too long ago accidentally. It was one of those movies I just kind of avoided because, I heard it was good, but it just didn't really seem like it would be particularly appealing. Mm-hmm. Mostly because of the whole fat man is fat joke. I'm like, well, that's not really my thing. But when I saw the first movie, I was really impressed by, wow, this is actually pretty well done and well written, and I was genuinely surprised by that. It was pleasant.
Yeah.
So, I didn't see the second one, but I did hear that one of the positives about the whole franchise is they always have good villains. So I can't speak to the second one.
That is probably the best part of the second one. I think Justin's right on that.
I heard that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with Gary Oldman.
Oh, no, you can't. Absolutely. He's good at playing villains. But this one, though, I thought it was beautiful. Like you guys said, I thought the animation was just wonderful. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths of it. And I think that you pointed out something really good, Dan, about the overall message just for kids in general, I think is very, very positive.
Yeah.
About speaking to your own strengths, believing in yourself.
I think we get a lot of animated features that are... They're trying to maybe convey a positive message, but it's through a bunch of mean-spirited humor. And there's not really a lot of mean-spirited humor here. I mean, there's a little bit when he can't really teach the class. They're sort of, making fun of him behind his back or whatever. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of, really mean jokes.
But what they do with that I really did like is they justify it, which is one of my issues with the messages. Is the best one comes about 20 minutes into the movie with the Dustin Hoffman quote, if you only do what you're capable of, you'll never be able to achieve anything more.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very true point, but it's also like, okay, I wish this kernel of wisdom came later in the movie.
Well, I mean, it's also something that I think isn't necessarily as obvious. It's something you have to think about.
That's true.
That might go
Well,
over...
it gets him motivated to do his thing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a good message, and I think for some small kids it might go over their heads, but it's something that I think overall throughout the whole film you can feel, as with all of them. And I guess that's consistent with these movies. And I really like Jack Black a lot. I think this is really among some of his best work. I just think he did a great job, fits very well with the voice and with the character. In regards to the whole fat joke thing...
What I liked about the humor for the first one was it wasn't... Not only was it not focused on the fat panda's fat joke, but it was equal parts loving homage to kung fu movies and also sort of parody of that in the same time.
This one, I'm wondering, do you guys think that it's sort of passable because they do the whole weight joke thing, but they are still trying to play on the strengths of the pandas, like they try to use it to their advantage despite the fact that they're roly-poly pandas? Like that's part of their technique?
Look, I don't mind that they're roly-poly pandas. That's how a panda is shaped.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's so much with the food jokes and who can eat more dumplings, and it's to me it's right out of the Clumps or something. I don't. It's just
mix it up.
It's a lame attempt at humor. I feel like
it's pretty base. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think one of the humorous strengths of that first movie is the way that the 5 interact with each other, and they're not really in this movie all that much. Probably because they're such big names. I mean, Seth Rogen's star has certainly risen since the first
definitely
Kung Fu Panda movie. So they're not. Obviously, most of the setting is with the panda community, and not so much with them. And I think that is where all of the food jokes come in.
Yeah, that's true.
And alongside that, one of the biggest issues I think the franchise has is the Furious 5 has never been they've never really been this dominating presence. They're supposedly these great kung fu masters, and they basically get shown up almost every movie.
Sadly. I always kind of wanted to see a spin-off of them or something.
Like,
well, they did have their own, I don't know if it was a half-hour show or a short or something, attached to one of the DVDs.
Oh.
Yeah, like the Furious 5 something or other.
They're cool.
That might be interesting to check out online or something.
Yeah, I mean, they're cool. I've always liked them, want to see more of them, but you're right, they're always kind of detracted a bit.
And the first one, it's like, okay, it's not really their story, it's Poe's. And I was like, okay, maybe this will change over the course of the next, if they like do a sequel. But really, it's been more the same in that regards. We got a little bit of that with 2, but 3, they've got maybe 15, 20 minutes of screen time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, well, let's move to our grades. Justin?
I leave this one with a B.
Joe?
Same, B.
Wow, well, 3 in a row. It's a B for me, which is, for me, between 1 and 2. 2 I liked a little bit less. Joe, let's talk about The Finest Hours.
All right.
I'm sorry, Disney's The Finest Hours.
Yeah, no, that's weird.
You got to get it in there. In 3D.
I didn't see it in 3D.
I actually did. Justin, did you see it?
Nope.
All right.
I heard that it wasn't very good, but you can tell me on that way. All right. Now, the film, obviously, is The Finest Hours, and it stars Chris Pine as the leader of the Coast Guard ship that goes out to save Casey Affleck. And it's based on this true story of this Coast Guard rescue in the 1950s, which is apparently, like, the biggest rescue ever was attempted.
Apparently, yeah.
Which I could believe, because the ship basically splits in half, and he has to go out in this huge storm to save these people. And, spoilers, it's pretty successful. Which is...
I don't think there would be a movie if it was not.
Which is, once again... kind of ties into, I guess you could say, the problem in the movie. The way this one is done, it's kind of in this... I want to describe it like old Hollywood. Like, it's very, very basic in its premise, which is fine. You know, it's perfectly fine. Like, they set up this romance, and the romance is nice, but they keep cutting back to it, and they keep cutting back to it.
It's real awkward.
And it's just like...
It's really, really awkward.
I'd rather just stick with what's, like, no, the main story. I don't know if we really needed it. Like, I get that...
No.
You need to have that extra drama, but isn't there enough with the tension, supposedly? So that just really cut away at it. And I thought there was some good action, but the movie kind of had this grainy look to it that just, I thought, kind of took away from some of the visuals. On the whole, though, I think the acting was okay. Like I said, the story was solid enough. I do like the fact that, you know, the Coast Guard, you know, getting more recognition doesn't happen too much in cinema, but I've seen one or two good ones before, so I mean...
Wasn't The Guardian, was that Coast Guard too?
I think it was.
People seem to really like that movie. I never saw it, but...
Yeah, there have been a couple decent ones, and I guess this one, in terms of the story, is good, and the actors are trying to do some fairly low-key things, which I can appreciate, but there were some huge issues with that romance just being segued in there. I think just cut away so much.
Yeah, they really shoehorned it in.
So much from that.
Well, now, Joe, I know you didn't see this one, but I think there has to be some kind of balance between this and In the Heart of the Sea, because In the Heart of the Sea was like real boring and then like 2 action scenes.
Okay.
Other than the romance, once this like gets going, it's like action, which was cool. They were cool sequences.
It's a little tiring.
But it was like there has to be some kind of balance between the two, and the storyline maybe could veer away from the romance and give us a little bit more insight about the individual characters. We knew about, a few. Obviously, Casey Affleck's character probably had the most exposition, but...
So you'd like more dynamic with the crew on each side, maybe?
Yes. I think that would balance out the movie a little better.
I could agree with that.
Justin, you saw In the Heart of the Sea. Don't you think this is kind of like the polar opposite in terms of, like, excitement to nothing happening ratio?
The one thing I want to give this one a little bit more points for over In the Heart of the Sea is... Even though it does have slower moments, at least this one held my interest more.
Definitely.
Yeah. In the Heart of the Sea was, for lack of a better word, a struggle.
That's not my issue with it. My issue isn't that it was boring. My issue is that it was almost too, like, in your face with the exciting sequences.
Like, that's all it had.
I felt that way a lot of the time, actually, once it gets probably the last half of the movie.
Oh, that's really all it was.
I felt that way.
I was going to say, it's like...
I would have liked to have seen some splitting of the difference and...
A little more substance.
A little more substance and a little bit... Well, and not in the romance arena.
Not that I mind the romance, but it didn't really need to...
It didn't have chemistry for starters.
So
it didn't gel with the rest of the movie.
Not at all.
The vibe with it,
Nope.
I do think, though, Pine gave another good performance.
He was good.
I think he's very solid. Affleck gives a good performance. He's usually fairly solid. Panda was okay. I've seen, Panda seemed a little bored, to be honest.
He's very hit or miss. It's just...
Well, how was he in this, Justin?
It was definitely more on the miss side of things.
I thought he was kind of bored in this one.
He wasn't Nero in this one.
Where's Nero?
Star Trek villain.
Oh.
Hello.
Hi,
how you
Nero.
doing today?
That's right. Yeah. I think of the Hulk.
Well, that too.
Well, he was less bored in that one. He got angry.
He
got
did.
very angry. He was kind of angry in this, but in a subtler way.
A more restrained anger.
He was more explaining his anger in this movie.
I need to give you long exposition as to why I'm angry.
Certain others. Like I said, I did see it in 3D. It's the classic Disney post-conversion 3D. It was all right. I mean, I think some of the action sequences were kind of cool in it, but yeah, I think it's actiony enough. You don't really need the extra parts coming out.
No, I chose to watch Kung Fu Panda 3 in 3D, but this one I figured was a pass.
That one I did not. But one of the other problems with Heart of the Sea is how claustrophobic it was. Justin mentioned that. This definitely did not feel like that. This one felt almost too grand.
Yeah, the scope was a little too big for its britches.
Which, look, I'm sure it was very intense. Mm-hmm. Joe said it, about the biggest rescue there ever was.
Apparently.
On record, I suppose. And that's fine. But at the same time, there could be maybe a few seconds where something wasn't happening.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't constant, or else they really would have been dead.
They would have died, for sure.
I mean, it's not The Finest Hours as directed by Michael Bay, but...
Yeah,
it's true.
But sometimes I felt like it kind of was, I guess is my problem. Justin, what do you give it?
I leave this one with a C.
Oh, so not actually that much better than Heart of the Sea.
Not quite,
Joe?
A little better than that, C+.
I'll do you one better, B- for me. All right, well, Justin, you have Anomalisa, nominated, obviously, for a Best Animated Feature.
David Thewlis voices Michael Stone, a self-help author perceiving the majority of people in his life as one sole entity, all voiced by Tom Noonan. However, when he runs into a shy young woman named Lisa, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, sparks fly as Michael considers the possibility of starting a new life with her, despite being happily married. I guess it's important to kick this one off by saying this was written and directed by Charlie Kaufman, obviously the writer of Adaptation, being John Malkovich. Needless to say, a lot of subtext, a lot of things to reflect on, much more going on under the surface. So I feel like it's important to kick this one off by saying, viewers, if you're not interested in think pieces, do not watch this movie. Because if not, it's going to lead to a lot of confusion and frustration. However, personally, I think the confusion's worth it, if only to witness Kaufman finding what I would consider arguably some of the most brutally honest observations about just what exactly it means to be human, how we perceive other people through our own eyes, and how we sometimes see ourselves in other people, even though we don't like to admit it. And because of that, it's certainly not for everyone. It's definitely not the most comforting experience, but it's easily one of the most original and certainly experimental films I've had the pleasure of reviewing for the podcast.
I think the best way to describe this one would be sort of hauntingly beautiful. might be a good way to do it, which I think is sort of Kaufman's style. It's definitely...
It's not a bad way to say it.
Like, I mean, it's
appropriate.
There's always a subtext of something a little uncomfortable and kind of oddly strange. But
I'd say you're probably the biggest Kaufman fan on the show.
Yeah, am I?
I think so. I mean, you love Adaptation a lot.
Schenectady?
Philip Seymour Hoffman?
I gave it an F, so...
I actually didn't see that one.
I didn't care for it.
I liked Where the Wild Things. I liked Her.
No, that's Spike Jonze.
Yeah. Spike Jonze.
Who directed John Malkovich.
I always get them confused because they're both very...
They're very artsy and different and unique.
But yeah, I generally like his stuff a lot. John Malkovich, obviously. No, this one, I think definitely a lot of subtext, definitely a lot to think about, which means you might have to go for repeat viewings, for sure. I think the voice work was really good. Like, what's his name again? Thewlis. Yeah, Lupin from Harry Potter is what I call him. But it was actually kind of good to see him in something more centered because he's usually a side character. Just the stop motion, just it might be some of the best I've ever seen because
there's nothing really quite like it.
And that's because it's not a lot of stop motion is either like overly quirky or really fantastical. This one was really, really detailed to simulate actual motion in a real life setting. So it was like, it was done with so much detail. You really did feel like you were watching a live action movie.
Yeah, I feel like if this was on TV and you were just flipping through the channels, I don't think you would necessarily realize that it was animated.
For like a second? No.
Yeah.
It's just like a second or two. And that's the thing about it that impressed me the most, was the amount of detail and time put into that. However, I do think that it's a story we've actually seen many times before. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, if this movie was live action, playing out the exact same way, how would I feel about it?
I'm glad you said that. I'm waiting for your response, because I have something on that as well.
And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, that sort of leads into my thought on it, which was, remember when we reviewed Boyhood, and I said, this movie is like nothing else. It's so cool in presentation, but if this were a movie that weren't filmed over 12 years and just the script was the script, I don't think it would be that impressive. I feel the exact same way about Anomalisa. I think this movie's animation is stunning and beautiful, and like you both mentioned, there really is nothing else like it. And, it definitely turns what might be a more ordinary story, into something better.
Interesting.
Now, I don't think this is ordinary, necessarily. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas. There's definitely some complex characters, obviously, some good discussion points.
Yeah.
But I agree, Joe. It's not groundbreaking in its script. The more abstract situations left me a little bit cold. There was a sequence where it was quite obviously a dream sequence, where he, goes and talks to the hotel manager and finds out that he has feelings for him, and then all this stuff happens. I mean, yeah, it was animated, so it was cool to watch, but how would I have felt if that were live action? Not so hot.
But does that deserve to have a strike against it? Is, I guess, my thought.
Absolutely. I mean, you do it in two parts.
I mean, we're not judging it on if it was a live action movie. We're judging it as an animated film.
No, but I understand that. So the animation part's great. But what does happen in both animated and live action are things like a script and the characters.
Yes, but
the situations that we've seen before.
Yes, but we're seeing this through the context of an animated film.
I understand, and I do raise the grade for that, but it absolutely gives it a strike against it.
Well, I'm not 100% sure if that's fair.
Well, why? A script is a script, no matter how it is. Now, this, obviously, is presented in a unique way, and that is going to raise the grade.
Of course.
But just because it's animated doesn't make the script better, is my point.
Well, you find the context of which to execute the idea. Just because it's written on a script doesn't mean it's making it to screen. Just because you're watching the filmed equivalent of a script does not mean you're actually watching the actual end product of a script. Things change all the time with scripts.
They do, but it's still the script that I'm basing my review on is the script that was the end result of this movie.
Yes, but my point being, just because it was written down does not mean it was what you saw. Which is why when you gentlemen say, oh, the script for this movie was not there, I kind of feel uncomfortable about agreeing or disagreeing, because what we're necessarily seeing is not necessarily the representation of the script.
Okay, but you're not understanding, though. What I'm saying is the script of the movie we watched, regardless of what was written down on the paper. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about what was said in the movie, the dialogue, the scenes that were in this film. That's the script I'm referring to, not the work script, not the first draft. The script of the film I watched.
Yes.
And if it was live action, you're saying that you wouldn't be as impressed with it.
If it was live action with the exact same words that were said in this movie, and scenes and everything, I would not be as impressed, is my point.
And I kind of felt the same way.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of being John Malkovich-isms in this. I mean, I don't think that's... I don't think if it were to change formats, it would be an entirely different movie.
No, that's kind of
that's the point. My point, Justin. My point is it would not be as impressive.
And to be fair, that what's impressive about it...
And what you're basically saying is it would be a lesser movie for it.
Correct.
There was so much detail in the animation, which was so good to make it so lifelike, which was really impressive.
Yes,
agreed.
But by doing that, I was able to see how it would be live action much easier, in that if it followed that exact same pattern, because it was so lifelike. I'm thinking, well, if they were just people doing these things, it would kind of be less impressive.
Yes.
From a stylistic point of view.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's very much up to the director's decision, and I think the idea of whether or not what it would be like as a live-action film is incredibly subjective.
Well, if they were to take this movie that we saw, animated, and they copied it live action. And
That's
I don't think they would do that.
It doesn't
That's
matter.
not the point. That's not the point.
I'm just saying, if I visualized it that way, because I can't help doing that, because it's so lifelike.
Because that's what it is.
I think it would be less interesting stylistically. I don't think the story
I don't think that's necessarily true.
And the story is good.
I don't think it's fair to say if this was live action, it would be a lesser movie, because we don't know.
I think it's absolutely fair. The most striking thing about this movie is the animation. For me, hands down. The animation's great, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's groundbreaking.
Yeah.
For me, the script is not those things. The reason I'm giving it as high a grade as I am is strictly because of the animation. Like Avatar. Think of it like Avatar. You know I don't like Avatar.
Yep.
3D effects, fantastic. Groundbreaking, awesome. The script, not so much.
Yeah, but also sort of like Boyhood, Avatar also had a striking amount of detail imposed into it, which is why yes, the script may not be up to par with, I don't know, say The Descendants, but there's...
You know your audience with your examples.
I can get one or two right?
Now just picking Hawaiian Avatar. Would have improved it for Dan.
Well, Avatar? Oh, yeah. Avatar would have definitely
George Clooney's like, please.
If Clooney was looking about his
Navi wife's
his coma Navi wife.
Played by Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's all I'm saying. I'm saying, for me, by far the most striking part of the movie is the animation. I'm not saying that I would give it an F or something if it was live action. I'm just saying, based on what I saw, the script was okay, the characters are okay, the animation, amazing.
And I'm not denying the fact that the animation is one of its stronger suits, but I think there's a bit more going on than just simply the script is okay. I think
for you, for me, I didn't find it to be that way. So, what is your grade?
A.
A-.
Yeah, I give it an A- as well.
This is not a good deal.
Because the animation's like an A+ for a mile, but the script it's like a B- It's just not that great. You know?
I mean, I thought they were good. I thought it was a good story.
Honestly, if this beats Inside Out at the Academy Awards, it wouldn't be the worst travesty. You know, Happy Feet beating Monster House, for me it would be the worst. But,
oh, God.
Obviously, it's an animation award. The animation here is amazing. But as a movie, Inside Out for me is way better than this.
Well, I think Justin's probably thinking, and I would agree, they're very different movies.
They're both in the same category, so they have to pick one.
Let's be honest.
One day we'll get R-rated animated best feature.
Yes.
When it comes to best animated feature, it's a Pixar world. There's only been
a Disney World.
A Disney World.
Because the last couple have been Disney proper, Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
But all right, well, if we close the show with Chi-raq, new on DVD, and this is Spike Lee's latest film. It's a satirical musical drama set in the south side of Chicago, known to many locals as Chi-raq due to the rampant gang violence present there. It causes an uproar with the female community, who set forth a movement that there will be no sex until the violence stops. It's based on the ancient Greek play Lysistrata. Now, this movie starts out with the most boring few minutes a film has maybe ever had. The song Chi-raq, which is whatever. First of all, it stinks. But, okay, it's in line with the movie, I guess. But they don't do anything. It's like I'm watching a YouTube lyric video.
I was confused when I started watching. Is this a real movie?
I was confused as well.
What's going on?
And I watched it on DVD, so I knew, okay, is this... Maybe I clicked on the wrong menu. I didn't know what was going on. So right away, I was kind of put off by that. But I think this movie is way too in your face with the agenda. You expect certain things from Spike Lee, but he's done things in more subtle ways in certain of his films past. You really can make a point without beating the audience over the head with it, and you can also be entertaining about it. Like Dear White People, for example, if you're going to talk about, movies in the race department. Mm-hmm. Any interesting ideas, of which there are some, are washed away, though, with this unappealing dialogue. Nick Cannon is he needs to stick with the hosting America's Got Talent. He is not a good actor. I don't know if I've ever seen any of his movies. I never saw Drumline or...
Underclassmen?
No, I never saw Underclassmen. So I think this is my first actual,
probably
film experience with him. Not good. And oh, look, everyone, there's Samuel L. Jackson for
Narrator.
literally no reason narrating other than I feel like to
Spike Lee.
make white people feel like, oh,
We can watch
Samuel L.
this.
Jackson's in it. Okay,
He doesn't hate us.
He's cool, like yeah. Justin, I wanted to ask you though, because you're very firm on your belief. Now, this has thus far only been stated, I think, mainly for Christian movies. But you don't like movies with a strong agenda shoving it down your throat. So how do you feel about that aspect of this film? Because that's all it does.
Well, it.
And I think you would be hypocritical to say it about Christian movies and not about Chi-raq.
Getting to that.
That's a good point.
It's very much a Spike Lee world through his Spike Lee lens. Which isn't really my fault to condemn him for being Spike Lee, doing Spike Lee things. The guy's got quite the opinion, for lack of a better word, and but I think the one thing that sets him apart from True Flicks, I believe it is.
You're the one that always talks about it. Pure Flicks.
Pure Flicks, thank you. Is Lee has a fantastic directing eye.
True.
And even when the scenes are very heavy-handed, of which there are plenty, he really does find these interesting shots to make them come to life, which I think is what is one of the movie's stronger suits.
He's always been a good director.
Don't know a whole lot about Nick Cannon as an actor, but honestly, in this case, I thought he'd be worse. But to get back to your point about the agenda, like I said, I think it's very much you get what you pay for. And I feel like he's covering a lot of different things, and it's very much through trying to stay true to the play, which I really did like. It wasn't just...
All right, that one I'll give you. I don't know anything about the play.
Which I respected the level of detail he went into. He tried to connect it to modern society, but also stay true to its roots, try and come up with lyricisms that fit that, and also having Samuel L. Jackson as the sort of omnipotent narrator. But to wrap up my point, heavy-handed, yes, but unique also, equally so.
Okay.
Well, I kind of like the setup with the kind of the old-fashioned, like almost Shakespearean play, kind of like the Fair Verona sort of thing. I kind of like that. I thought it was cool. Reminded me a bit of the '90s Romeo and Juliet in that sense, stuff like that. So I didn't mind that. I liked Sam Jackson as the narrator, though I did think that his placement was kind of random.
It was just out of place. I mean, I liked him too. I always like him, but it just I don't know how necessary he was.
No, but it's Spike Lee trying to get faces, familiarity. It's fine.
Greek play, Greek chorus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's true.
And I don't know if first of all, I gotta say, Dan, those opening credits are top 5 worst. Okay, at first
I'll be honest, I was okay with them.
I mean, I was okay
Really?
with the facts. Okay, death.
Oh, the facts were fine.
Afghanistan, Iraq.
Yeah. That was interesting.
And then the Chicago, and I didn't know what kind of movie it was. I had no context. So, okay, it's a documentary about urban South Chicago. Let's talk. Okay, interesting. And then bad rap for 3 minutes.
There's a bad song.
Over nothing, and I'm like,
this movie had some okay songs.
No.
That just wasn't one of them.
I'm just saying
that to lead your movie with that
some of the rap
and nothing but the lyrics. That's wouldn't have been my choice.
No,
this
wasn't good.
Definitely not.
Though the painstaking, I guess the detail of the script with the constant rhyming, kind of like keeping it poetic a lot of the time. I liked that.
Well, I think I had mixed feelings about that. I kind of liked it. Also, John Cusack. What are you doing in this movie?
He stuck out like a
he
white
stuck
thumb.
out like a white thumb. Is right. Playing the hip
Priest guy?
the hip preacher. But I wish he would have either gone all in on that or not at all. It was too sporadic.
Mm-hmm. But I do agree that Spike Lee is a great director, though. I mean, in terms of just the flow,
there's no denying that.
The flow of his film, the editing, just the way he uses the landscape cinematography. Like behind a camera, there's few directors that are better. And I'll say that about Spike Lee all the time. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, Malcolm X, fantastic film. Name dropped that a few times.
What about Old Boy 2013?
I've forgotten the 2013 Old Boy, so I have no idea. But yeah, no, I thought that one reason, as far as the agenda goes, it's Spike Lee and the audience and the subject matter. I get it. I think I gave it a pass because it's supposed to be like this grand, bombastic musical satire. So it seemed to kind of fit with everything.
I was going to say.
It didn't really bother me that much. I mean, heavy-handed, yeah, but at least you're being kind of fun with it.
It's satirical and it's far more coherent than most of the things that Pure Flicks turns out.
Yeah, I don't really care too much about them one way or the other. But trust me, there are definitely certain ways you can hammer a message in and be a lot less creative than he was here.
It was definitely creative.
So, you know what I mean?
It was very in your face, though.
Yeah.
So are most Spike Lee movies.
But I feel like going into this one, people would expect that.
All right, Justin, what do you think?
Grade-wise, I'm leaving this one with an A- for now.
Joe?
I was going to say a B.
Yeah, I'm certainly below you guys. It's a straight-up C for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. All right, well, that will do it for this week's edition of the show. Check out our soon-to-be-posted the revision of the best and worst of the year, plus our Oscar picks, who we think will win and who we think should win on the Oscar telecast happening very soon. And next week we'll have more new releases for you. You can check out our Star Trek videos as well on this channel, and there's some older ones up on Joe's Merlin channel. But we're primarily posting them now on our channel here, which you can subscribe to, of course, and the Facebook group Film Fanatics with an exclamation point, and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. We will see you back here next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.